Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video. In this video, I will be doing my my 2023 ladder prediction. And you know what that means? I have bought my old friend back. I used this in 2021. I didn't use it in 2022 because I didn't do any prediction videos or something like that during 2022. But it's now back for 2023. So I'm going to be doing this completely different. So at first I was going to do team by team, but since I'm under a tight ship, as you can obviously know, I'm just going to settle this, section by section pretty much, and then I'll do, quickly do finals and all that. So let's get straight into this. So my bottom four. I'll just dropped a piece here. So in 18th position, so in the honourable team that's going to win the wooden spoon this year will be West Coast. In 17th, in 17th, in 17th I have North Melbourne. In 16th, this is probably not going to go as quickly as I thought. 16th will be Hawthorn, and 15th will be my team in Essendon. So at first, I was going to pick Hawthorn as my wooden spooners. I was going to do it. I was never going to pick North Melbourne as my wooden spoon. I don't think they'll win the wooden spoon for the third year in a row. But they will, I believe, finish down the bottom end of the ladder. But after their insipid performance against Adelaide, who to be honest, don't expect to be much this year. I think that they will. I just think that they'll win the wooden spoon. I think Hawks. I think they'll have a bit of a better year than I originally thought, in my opinion. Not the last team. I'll say that too, mind you. And Essendon, I had them a lot higher, to be honest, not because I'm an Essendon fan, but normally from a bad year we normally go back up, but I don't see it happening. I believe maybe our wins column, maybe we might improve on it, but on our 7 wins from 2022. But I don't see us moving positions. There was no other position to put them in but in the exact same position they were in 2022, and that was in 15th. In 14th, 13th, and 12th, through the 14th to 12th barrier, in 14th place, I have got, I remember rightly, I have got the Adelaide Crows. Again, the same position as it was last year. Put him in 14th. 13th, unlucky for some, is GWS. I believe that they will go higher than what other people will expect. Everyone's expecting to finish bottom 4. Some people are predicting them to win the spoon, but I believe that they'll finish higher than what everyone else thinks. And the first shock of this one, in 12th position, I have the Western Bulldogs. The reason being is I don't think they're as good as people suspect. Even though I did say in my BD AFL Insider about the 4-headed monster in Norton, Lobb, Ugle-Hagan, and Sam Darcy, and then all the gun midfielders in there. I think there's going to be a lot of other clubs that are going to just jump ahead of them. And I won't be surprised if one of either the Giants or the Crows go up ahead of them at some stage. I will not be surprised. The Giants, I don't think they're the opposite of the Bulldogs. So I think they're better than what everyone else thinks. And I don't know if it's just the first year coach factor like Craig McRae did last year. I don't know if Adam Kingsley's going to have the same as what Craig McRae did for Collingwood last year. But I think that they'll have a much better year. And I believe, and even though with some of the star players still there in Green, Canelio, Whitfield, so on and so forth, and also the draft picks, especially Aaron Cadman, who there's massive potential on. As some people say, he's the next Jeremy Cameron. Some people have said. I think for me, they will be higher than what everyone else thinks. And then also the Crows. I think that they'll take a bit of a half. I don't think they'll take a step back from last year. I think they'll take a bit of a, let's just say, a half a step back before they take that 2 steps forward and challenge for finals. I don't think it's time yet for them to be a serious finals contender yet, but their time is coming. But then again, obviously they still got the likes of, you got Dawson, you got Fogarty, who was a real shining light for them in the second half of the season. You got Tex as well. You got Rochelle as well, and then of course you got the big recruit in Isaac Rankin. I think that they will, as I said, I think they'll take half a step back to go two steps forward really for the Crows, in my opinion. 9th, 10th, and 11th. This one is a second shock. In this one, in 11th. I have Collingwood in 11th, and I'll explain why in a bit. In 10th, in 10th position, I have St Kilda. I believe that they'll go high. They'll finish higher than what everyone else expects. They're under Ross Lyon, and then the dreaded 9th position, I have Port Adelaide, finishing just missing out on finals this year. You might be asking yourself, explain why you do not have Collingwood out of in the 8 after they finished top 4 in 2022, just after finishing 17th in 2021. Well, these are my reasons. A couple of reasons. Number one, I have seen sides and seeing all these sides, with the exception of Geelong, that have gotten away with this over the last few years, that is have recruited 3 or 4 players in their side thinking that they're in the premiership window, and then the next season, bottom out, go out of the 8. They can go from being finals contenders or being premiership contenders one year, couple of changes later, because what everybody does not understand. Us at Essendon, we experienced this in 2018 when we finished 7th in 2017, and to be honest here, guys, I thought we hit the freaking jackpot when we got Sard, Smith, and Stringer. I thought we hit the freaking jackpot, and this is our time to pretty much go straight up the ladder towards maybe top 4 possibly. But then when it came to the start of the season, we started 2-6 from our first 8 games. And even though we came home like a steam train towards the end of the season, it was too late. We missed the finals. And you got to say, it was because of trying to get Smith, Sard, and Stringer a role in the starting lineup. That will be the same thing what Collingwood's doing right now. How are they going to implement Tom Mitchell into their midfield? How are they going to put Bobby Hill? Well, Bobby Hill and Billy Frampton. What are they going to do, What are they going to do with Billy Frampton? Are they going to put him as a second ruckman alongside Cameron, or are they going to put him as a Jordan Roughhead type of role? Or I necessarily don't not afraid about McStay. Well, McStay, I think he's better than Gun. I don't think he's better than what everyone else thinks. I think Gunston is better than McStay, and he's basically the McStay replacement. That's what I think, in my opinion. So it's not just because I personally hate Collingwood because I'm an Essendon supporter, but in my mind I'm thinking this, and also to think about this as well. What everyone else doesn't think about is they have the 5th oldest list in the league. This was pointed out by Jordan Roughhead a couple of days ago. This was pointed out to him. He said Collingwood are the 5th oldest side in the league right now. The problem is this. They've got, in terms of the youngsters, they got Ginnivan, they got Quaynor, they got the Dacos brothers. After that, who else they've got for their future? Who else do they have? Because they either have youngsters that have not yet played a game, for one. Two, they some youngsters that have played a game but only about a couple of games or so, or three, they've played about 40 games, but they're not regular first team players. That's the problem here for Collingwood. That I'm concerned for them. My concern for them is 2022. Were they expected to finish 15th to 17th? That's what I'm expecting. Were they expecting to finish 15th to 17th? That was probably what their expectation, or everyone's expectation was. Nobody expected them to finish top 4. But that is going to compromise dearly for the next few years, because they could have, like maybe about 3 or 4 years time, with the youngsters that they have that currently right now and for the future, probably would have been successful in about 3 or 4 years time. Now that they think they're in the premiership window right now, that means that their future is compromised. That's what my personal opinion is. But yeah, and the second reason why is fun fact, before they went on that big 11-game winning streak that which basically propelled them to top 4, guess where they were in position? Right where I've put them, in 10th and 11th. So don't say, don't say, I don't want a sulky Collingwood supporter, which probably most likely I will, because I put them in 11th, that what I said wasn't true. It's true. It's not a lie. It's fact. You can go on the AFL website or any website that is history making on the AFL or any Wikipedia page, and you can find that out where they were, that Collingwood were. It's fact. It is a fact for me in terms of that. On the others, I think St Kilda, I believe they will be much better than what everyone else says. I saw this firsthand in the practice game against Essendon. I watched about 95% of that game because me and my pop were watching both the third test match between Australia and India and the practice game, and what impressed me was they were behind at quarter time. They got dominated at quarter time, obviously because of the wind factor. But even in the third quarter, when they were kicking against the wind, they outscored Essendon. They outscored Essendon in that quarter. And yes, I know Essendon's inaccuracy did cost them in the end, but you got to be impressed by that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Ross Lyon factor or something else. I don't know. But I believe they'll go higher. And Port Adelaide, in my opinion, I think they'll finish bottom. I think they'll just miss out on finals in 9th. And unfortunately, that would mean they'll miss the finals. And probably most likely, that will be the end of Ken Hinkley as coach of Port Adelaide. So this is right now my positions 9th through to 18th. So we're halfway through this. Now we move on to the top 8. I'm going to move on to 5th and 8th. In 8th position, going into their first ever final series, will be the Gold Coast Suns. In 7th position, I think not doing this so-called grand final hangover, but I think that they won't finish as highly as they were last year, is the Sydney Swans. In 6th position, a team that, and in 6th and 5th position, ironically, 2 teams that are playing tonight as I'm recording this. In 6th, Carlton, and in 5th, Richmond. We'll move on to the Gold Coast Suns first. In my opinion, there's 2 words I've got for the Gold Coast Suns this year. No excuses. They have got the list to challenge for finals now. They're probably the most... I said this in my opening AFL Insider episode. They've got the most underrated list in the AFL, one of the most underrated lists in the AFL this year. I know it's a bit of a bold call, but it's true. They've got through all around the ground. They've got defenders. They got Ballard. They got Collins. Lockie Weller when he comes back in. Then in the midfield you got Miller, Rao, Anderson, and of course you got Witts as well as the ruck. And then in the forward line you got these names: King, Chol, Casboll, Ainsworth, Jeffries, Roses. Who can I name more? I mean this list screams. If that list doesn't scream finals, I don't know what is, to be honest. I had them, believe it or not, as high as 7th before their performance in the practice game against GWS, which had me bumping them down a position. But I still think they'll finish finals anyways. Sydney, they have to break a drought basically of pretty much have to break a drought or a curse. I'd call it a curse pretty much of teams that have lost by 40 points or more in a grand final. Most of them, as Lee Montagna said during the season preview for Fox Footy, he said this. Teams they've been beaten by 40 points in the grand final, either not made finals next season, or they have made finals but didn't win a final. So they now have to get rid of it to reverse the trend here if they want to be a contender again. I don't think they will be as good as they were last year. I think a lot of teams will not necessarily saying all their individual players will be good again. I think Warren will be good again. Guys like Parker and all that, and also the underestimating factor, and nobody's been talking about this, is Josh Kennedy not being there. That will be the main problem for me in 2023. That being the case really. The case really. So yeah, and also, is Buddy going to go around again in 2024? Who knows? Hopefully he will. So yeah, and then obviously the last two teams, Carlton, of course they went from being in the top 8 all for 22 out of the 23 weeks of the home and away season last year, and then with about a minute to go in the home and away season, they get knocked out of finals. They were basically in the top 8 for 99.9% of the season, of the home and away season, and the 0.1%, they were outside of it in the final minutes of the game against Collingwood, which is one of the best games I've ever seen, mind you, as well. So yeah, I think that they'll be in the finals. I won't be surprised if they'll be in finals this year. Do I think they'll be top 4? I don't think so. I think they'll challenge for top 4, but then they'll drop out of the top 4 contention late in the year, and I think around 5th to 7th range, I believe will be the right way for me for Callum, but I put him in 6th for now. And in 5th, I've got Richmond, and trust me, I was this close to putting them in the top 4, but there was one team in there that I couldn't resist just putting in there, which I'll reveal in a minute. I think that they'll go to the next level. I mean, the additions of Taranto and Hopper will definitely help them out. And I hope that they do reverse that horrible record of close games in 2022, which ultimately probably cost them top 4. If those close games had reversed in home and away season, they would have finished top 4. So that's why I think that they are close to get a finish around the mark again, and they're going to finish, I believe 5th, and that would mean that they'll have a home final at the MCG, and then hopefully sky's the limit there in finals for the Richmond Football Club. So from 4th to 2nd here, I've got in 4th place, and a bit of a minor shock, I've got Fremantle. The Fremantle Dockers in 4th, Brisbane in 3rd, and Melbourne in 2nd, which leaves the one team in there as I put magnets into place. Why do I think Fremantle will finish top 4? I think for me, I think they'll be even stronger in defence. Some might argue the fact that Melbourne defence got even stronger a bit at certain times in 2022, compared to 2021, and I think Freo will do that again. And of course the midfield obviously got Sarong. Of course, you got Brayshaw, Sarong, Will Brodie as well, and then of course most recently you got Jagger O'Meara as well in there as well. That's sorted out, but the big problem is the forward line. That's one of two problems. The second thing is where would star recruit Luke Jackson play? I think he'll play more a ruck forward in a way. Now, to answer the first question, what's going to happen with the forwards? Well, I think I agree with what people are saying about putting Nat Fyfe forward. I think his midfield days, I believe, are over. I believe, in my opinion, mostly because there's youngsters there that are probably more better than him in the midfield sense now. Especially in Brayshaw and Sarong, definitely, and also Will Brodie as well, and also you might count Jagger O'Meara into that list too. But I believe for me, and the small forwards, they can kick bags of goals. There's no worry about that. The problem is who's going to be the star key forward, who will be the next best. There's no doubt about it. I think Fyfe will be that. And then the one guy I think others need to watch, I think is the one to watch for Fremantle, who nobody's talked about, who I think will have a big season. And I know he's only played a couple of games, and I know it's just based off of the elimination final as well. But the way that young Jai Amos played in that elimination final, I remember. I think it was early in the last quarter. He marked it from about 50, 55 meters out. I think it was from 50, or maybe 45 on a straight from directly in front. It was a kick to tie the game in front of 59,000 at Optus Stadium. 58,000 of them are all purple for Fremantle. And the amount of pressure this young 19-year-old would have been immense. But instead, straight through the middle and to basically tie the game. And even though he didn't have a lot of the ball, he was massive in that game. He kicked a couple of goals as well, and was one of the reasons as well. So I think for me, in terms of Fremantle, I believe I think he's the one to watch. I think he'll have a breakout season in the future, in the next couple of years. Hopefully, for what I'm saying, hopefully it'll be next season as well. Brisbane and Melbourne, I think everybody's been saying Brisbane for the premiership, Melbourne for the flag. I don't think they'll finish as high. I don't think they'll finish as high as everyone says they are. As Brisbane, despite them having the full faculties with them. I believe Melbourne. I don't think that they're. I don't think they'll make the grand final. I think they'll come close in the prelim, but I don't think they will win it. I don't think they'll make a grand final, in my opinion, as well. But that would mean that they will be closer to their target, in my personal opinion. And Melbourne, obviously, I could see them make a grand final again. And I can see them finish top again, but I don't see them doing this because I believe for the second year in a row, this side will definitely be minor premiers, and it is, not surprisingly, Geelong. They just have the best side. In my opinion. Despite losing Joel Selwood, they just have the best side in the AFL at the moment, despite losing probably the best captain of the last decade. But the thing that leaks out on the page to me is everyone's been saying how old this squad is. They got a lot of 30-year-olds. That's the thing. And they got not a lot of youngsters. But I don't think that is true. I think there's a lot of young. They've got a lot of youngsters. Include two of them in Oliver Henry and Tanner Bruin that they got in this trade period. I think, and also Jack Bowes, who's not that younger. I think he's around his mid-20s. I believe Jack Bowes. But they're building on future success. That's what teams. Dynasty sort of teams do is have a crop of players that's crop of star players that are going to win your premiership now, and a lot of youngsters that are going hopefully will take a club to a premiership in the future. That is the underrated thing. I think they've got a very good mix of youth and experience. They just not opting to play the youth as of yet. And I also forgot about Sam de Koning as well. There's another couple in there as well. Which I'm not going to list all of them because we'll be here for about 2 hours. So yeah, And with that, we're joining the likes of Hawkins, Cameron, Dangerfield, Duncan, Stewart, Blitzarves. They're gonna go. They're a massive chance to go back to back. A massive chance to go back to back. So that is the home and away ladder beside the screen. So I'm going to get rid of the positions 9 through to 18 right now. There we go. So these are the 8. So I have got, of course, it'll be Geelong versus Fremantle. That'll mean Melbourne versus Brisbane. Richmond versus Gold Coast. That's gonna be absolutely unbelievable. And final one will be Carlton versus Sydney. First one, Geelong and Fremantle. Oh, that one's going to be a tough one, but the last time these two teams met in the qualifying final, it was actually Fremantle that won. But I believe it was the opposite way. I think Geelong will qualify for another preliminary final against whatever team it is, basically. On that front, the second qualifying final, I don't know why it's not working here. Bit of technical difficulties here in this video. So yeah, and then the second qualifying final, between Melbourne and Brisbane. I think Melbourne will win this one, and qualify through to their second preliminary final in 3 years, and that would mean that Brisbane once again will have to utilise their double chance. The second one, the first of the elimination finals, Richmond and Gold Coast. And since it's going to be the MCG, the fairy tale season of the Gold Coast will come to an end, and I think it'll be Richmond that will play, I would assume, Fremantle. Yeah, Fremantle in the and knocking out the Gold Coast Suns. And then the final game, this one, Sydney and Carlton. I believe that what I like to call curse will continue, and I believe Carlton will get their first finals win. In over a decade, and knock out the Sydney Swans. So now we move on to the second week, which is I'm bloody useless at this. Which is, of course, if I move to across here, will be. So the first semi-final will be Fremantle versus Richmond. Oh, that one's gonna be a tough one. Gonna be a massively tough one. But I think for me, I think Fremantle. I think there might be an upset here. I think Freo, I believe, will lose a home final, and Richmond will go through to a prelim, I think, again, which I think it's against Melbourne, I think. I have to correct myself there in the comment. So that means that the winner of Brisbane and Carlton will go through to play Geelong, and I think in my opinion, I can see this team here winning through, and that would mean, unfortunately, Carlton season will come to an end. So we get to the prelims. Geelong versus Brisbane, much like what it was in 2022, but a difference in the second preliminary final with Melbourne and Richmond. And I think for the second year in a row, I think Geelong, I think will win against Brisbane. The difference is I don't think they'll have it their own way, unlike 2022. I think that Geelong will be the first team through to the AFL Grand Final. And the second preliminary final will be, of course, the premiers of the two premiers of the last 3 years in Richmond, last 4 years, I should say, in Richmond, Melbourne and Richmond. And I think, again, in a tight one, I believe Melbourne will win that one to progress through to the grand final. And I think it'll be for the first time, I think, that these two sides, Melbourne and Geelong and Melbourne, will play in a grand final. And who I think will win that? Sorry. I know Gawn, there's a Gawn and Grundy factor. Geelong will win back-to-back premierships. I just can't go past it. I think that they will win. I think Dangerfield and Chris Scott will lift the trophy up, and Geelong will, for the first time, believe it or not, in about, I think, since 1952, they will win consecutive premierships. Now I don't know where the Melbourne one went. So that one is my ladder prediction. I just thought instead of doing it team by team, I'll do it section by section, pretty much. So like this video, share to anybody who is a Geelong fan or a Melbourne fan. Comment down below who is your tip to win the AFL Premiership. Do you agree with me and say Geelong? Do you think it'll be Melbourne? Do you think it'll be Brisbane? Or hell, do you think it'll be Collingwood? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And one last thing, somewhere down there, click on the big red button which is labelled subscribe. But until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later, and wherever you may be, may the sun or the moon shine on you for this AFL season in 2023.